What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the latest episode of the Going Long podcast. I'm Zachary Neel. My co-host over there is Jonathan Stewart. Jay Stu, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
Nothing much, man. Just enjoying the weather over here. What's the
Ah,
weather like over there, please?
lucky for you. We had beautiful 70 degrees yesterday, and now it's like raining and in the 40s today. It's just classic
Right.
Eugene. We had our little glimpse of spring.
What'd you do for Easter?
Easter, it was actually really nice over Easter weekend. We had some sun. We got the baby girl out for her first Easter egg hunt, so she can finally walk now. So that was fun with family. What about you?
Yeah. It was wonderful, man. The whole weekend was enjoyable. It was fun and relaxing at the same time. So
That's good.
anytime there's a fun and relaxing when you have kids and all the
Yeah,
moving pieces on a weekend, it's a great time.
yeah. You don't always get those two things together. Um,
Yeah.
we're recording a day later than usual today, just because of some scheduling things. But we've got a really great show planned out for you. Obviously, the main topic that we're going to dive into is Carlos Locklyn, Oregon's running backs coach, leaving Eugene and taking a job with Ohio State, going over to the Buckeyes earlier this week. We're going to kind of talk about the ramifications of that move, discuss where Oregon goes from here, and kind of talk about what some of the fallout might be for the Ducks after that. After that, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics personally, which is Oregon Ducks uniforms. The Ducks announced last week that they have new uniforms coming in 2024 as they venture into the Big Ten for the first year. So we're going to dive into that news and have a little bit of a bigger picture topic about uniforms in general. All that sound good to you?
Yep, that sounds great. Let's get to it.
So let's start with Lachlan, which is the news of the week. It got announced on Monday. There was kind of rumors over the weekend. We talked, I believe that was on Sunday or Saturday. I forget which day that was, but we talked about, there's rumors coming out that he was going to leave for Ohio State. It ended up being announced on Monday evening that he was going to become the new running backs coach for the Buckeyes. What was your initial reaction when you heard the news that Lachlan was leaving?
My initial reaction was, dang, we lost a good one, you know, and um and I've obviously gotten to know him while his time has been spent here or spent, with the Oregon Ducks. Got to know him through text, and we got a nice little group chat of all the running backs, even Coach Cam, and basically he gets it, and it's all about family. You always hear the concept of football is family, and you got to treat each other like brothers. With my time playing, for the University of Oregon, Coach Campbell, my running back coach, I looked up to him like he was my father, and that's exactly how that running back room felt every day. Holidays, you know, like the side chats, and you just always feel like you can always go to um, this leader, this man, this figure, um, with anything. Whether you're upset with your playing time, whether you're upset with you know like somebody taking jabs at you, whatever it is. Coach Cam always represented the room and represented each individual player as if it was his own, as if it was his own child. So, and Coach Locklyn, he represents the same things. Football is family. This is a brotherhood. But there's going to be a way that we do things. We're going to do things the right way. So, you know, I get it. This is a business at the end of the day. This is, you know, like, I had a coach that once said, "Ain't no loyalty in this game besides a paycheck." And you take that how you but it's true. It's just like any business. Like if someone sees much more value in you through how they're going to pay you, and at the end of the day, like you see how this world is ticking right now, prices of everything is going up. real estate's going up, interest rates are going crazy. Like it provides uncertainty for the future for a lot of people. And, these coaches, they have families to support. They have kids to look out, for and provide for their future. And give them, um, a legacy, leave them with a legacy that gives them a step ahead. You look at Coach Locklyn, you talk about a guy that comes from the mud, like he represents everything it means to come out of the mud. Yeah, he was, signed as a free agent, got hurt with the Giants, and became a correction officer, like in Tennessee. So, showing up to practices with a bulletproof vest, like, because hey, I just got off of work. So,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? So, just his story and just how he's evolved and to a coach that's being sought after is an amazing story. And so, if anything, man, like, Oregon fans, just be glad that were lucky enough to experience, a coach that has basically created himself and given himself, the opportunities that has presented over his time. And, you know, I'm pretty sure we'll find someone
Yeah.
um, in the Rolodex.
Yeah.
I'm not really worried about finding a replacement because at this moment, Oregon's on top right now, in my opinion, as far as where coaches ought to go and would want to go that are out there.
Yeah, I agree what you're saying. I mean, it's tough from an Oregon perspective and an Oregon fan perspective, but it's really impossible to blame Lachlan for taking this move because, like you said, this is a business, and Lachlan was severely underpaid at Oregon for the production that he was putting out on the field with his backs. He made 175,000 last year at Oregon, and he just signed a contract extension earlier this year that was going to see him get paid 400,000 per year. At Ohio State, he's getting paid somewhere between 600 and 7,000 per year, and he's walking into arguably the best running back room in the nation. So, it's I'm sure he has a lot of love for Oregon. I've talked to him before. He really liked this place and loved what they poured into him. But like you said, this is a business, and it's hard. If I was in his shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. It's kind of like I don't
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how into professional golf you are, and that whole live golf conversation with the PGA Tour, and people getting mad that all these guys are taking hundreds of millions of dollars to go play somewhere else. But every time I talk to someone about that, I'm like, if I was in that situation, I'm leaving every time. I'm taking the $200 million to go play somewhere else. So that's what Lachlan did here. Obviously, not that
Yeah.
type of money, but it's like, yeah, he's moving up that coaching ladder and kind of making the decision that's best for him.
And I mean, I think it's also too like, we see time and time again where coaches get fired mid-season,
Yeah.
right? And I know people are like, "Oh man, it's spring ball," but you have to say to yourself, "Well, look at the flip side. If they were bad coaches during the season, you're talking October, November, guys are getting fired, head
Mhm.
coaches. So it usually works out in the end on that side of you know, the table. So guys got to make the best decision for them as well, business wise. And so it's all business. Don't take it personal.
Mhm.
And because I'm pretty sure, everybody liked each other on that staff, and it was no bad blood.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't think
and
there
I
was any
mean,
bad blood.
yeah, and I mean, as a player, like you're kind of like walking in, you know, like it's definitely going to be awkward. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, dang, where's coach? You know what I'm saying? What do we do? And you probably have another position coach come in there, or you're going. Maybe it's the tight ends coach that's taking them under their wing for the moment. But that's what this is all about. You got to be able to adapt, and these players are going to be better for it. I'm pretty sure, um, Coach Locklyn, definitely reached out to them and didn't leave them in the dark about it, and provided, you know, all the answers and any questions. Um, so I'm pretty sure they went about this the right way.
Yeah, and so we talked to Dan Lanning yesterday because it was the first day of spring practice after they were off for their break, and so we got a chance to ask him about, the running back situation and where they were gonna go, and he said what you would expect him to say. He said, "It's football. This is the reality. We're gonna try and go get better, try and get a better coach." He said that transition always offers the opportunity to improve, so that's the mindset they're going into this with. He also said that they're not in a rush to hire anyone as quickly as possible. They're not trying to get someone in there in the next week so they can, keep the ship afloat and everything. He said we're a well-oiled machine. Like we've got coaches on the staff that can take care of that room in the interim while we try and find the right guy. He mentioned there's a couple of graduate assistants and offensive analysts on the staff that are kind of taking that room over right now, but they're not in a rush. He said they're not in a rush to do anything wrong or to do the wrong thing, which I think is a really good
Yeah.
mindset to go about this with. They want to find the right guy and know that they've got someone that's going to be able to keep that level of success and that production up going forward.
Yeah. Sounds like a man with intentions.
Absolutely. So let's talk about potential hiring philosophies going forward and some names to watch. We've got a list of names to watch up on duckswire.usatoday.com. You can check that out. But before we talk about a few intriguing options, let's talk about potential hiring philosophies. I personally am of the opinion that I want them to hire someone young and kind of with the mindset that they went with the offensive line last year when they had to make those hires. So if you don't remember, Adrian Clem was hired away by the New England Patriots. Lanning turned and he got a young up and comer with Alik Terry, who's a really good recruiter and who had experience at Oregon. Then he also went and hired Mike Kavanaugh, who was a veteran coach of more than 35 years, had coached all across the nation, one of the more respected coaches, offensive line coaches in the nation. Our friend Jeff Schwartz always talked very highly of them and was really a fan of that hire. They brought him on as an offensive analyst. That's kind of what I would like to see them do at the running back room. I want to see them with a young coach and then get a vet, someone very experienced, come in as an analyst, and you kind of have that two-headed monster as that running backs in that running back room. When you think about what you want to do, I mean, you could either go that way, you can go with a big name running back coach that's going to win the press conference. What kind of philosophy do you tend to like a little bit more?
Um, I think about the room, right?
Mhm.
It's not about press conferences, in my opinion. It's not about um, you know, the X's and all the O's and analyzing. I feel like you already have that. When you talk about Dan Lanning, um, and what he's not in a rush to do, it screams to me that they already got the pieces that they need in place right now to continue throughout their spring activities, the spring practices, getting prepared for the season. All those things are already in motion. What you want to do is get the right coach for the right room. And I'm not talking about just the running back room, I'm talking about the coaches' meeting room. You know what I'm saying? So, what personality fits that entire coaching staff and what personality is going to get the most out of these young kids, because they're kids at the end of the day, right? So
Mhm.
you got to figure out a way to get someone in here that has the presence, that can control a room and demand, or not demand but command an ear, right? um, that can get these guys to play at a level that they've never played before. And so experience comes to mind as far as, you know, having any type of dealings at the running back position, but also finding someone that has, you know, the traits of understanding ball in other aspects, right? Being able to teach these young running backs, you know, the route trees and understanding, the formation setups and the overall approach to the game, because that's what Coach Locklyn did, and that's the reason why he's been successful. Is because he's not just teaching these guys running back.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? He's teaching them what is the offensive line doing, what is the tight end doing, what is the receivers doing, because you might have to go out there and line up at receiver one time. So finding someone that can speak the universal language of ball is going to be a key component I think when it comes to uh, finding a coaching hire. But it has to fit the personality of the room.
So one name that I'm very interested in, kind of with that goes along with the philosophy, and this is someone I think that you will be very interested in as well. I want them to hire former Oregon running back Andre Crenshaw, who is the current running backs coach at Western Kentucky. He's obviously knows the program well, young up and coming coach. Their I would love them to pair him with one of those older vets, whether it's someone like Daryl Dickey, who is a Georgia offensive analyst who's worked for more than 35 years, worked with both Dan Lanning and Marshall Malco, or you pair him with someone like Burton Burns, who was working with Dan Lanning at Alabama, who won 5 national championships in 11 years at Alabama. But what do you think of someone like Andre Crenshaw? I know that you know him pretty well. What do you think that he'd be able to do with this program?
Oh, I mean, he's a running back, so he's already he has a proven track record, right? He knows what he's doing. He's the expert in the room, right? And so he's going to be able to identify with what these players are going through as well, right? College kids trying to make it, trying to stay healthy, like getting trying to make sure that you are in alignment with your schoolwork and all the things, right? So he's played college ball through and through, and he's been coaching it. But not just coaching, but he's coaching guys like Isaiah Davis, right?
Mhm.
Isaiah Davis is probably a sleeper in the draft at this point, right? So Isaiah Davis, and I think what the I think Pierce Brown or
Yeah,
Pierce
it's
Strong,
Pierce Strong.
Pierce
That's what
Strong,
it is.
drafted by the Patriots and playing for the Browns now. So he's gotten like to the level to where he's contributing to running back success, like the track record, right? Not just a track record of him playing, but a track record of him knowing what he's talking about and getting guys to play at a higher level. And so you pair that up with a guy that Coach Lanning has familiarity with, that can be, the a vibe and a good mesh as far as the presence of being in the room. Um, no, I think that's a great pairing.
When's the last time you talked to Andre?
Man, the last time I talked to Andre has got to be maybe like an Instagram message or something. Um, maybe talking about, just proud of him for where he's at in life and, just chasing the coaching dream. And, I think it had to be probably like in 2017, 18 or something like that. But I'm definitely going to try to reach out to him.
I was
So
gonna say you need to hit him up. Be like,
especially if
hey,
he especially if he gets hired by University of Oregon, we'll try to have him on the podcast. But
absolutely. It's
yeah,
funny. I had some people on Twitter reach out to me like, maybe Jay Stu wants to get into coaching. What if they called you? What would you say? Is that something that would interest you at all?
um, you never say never, right?
Yeah.
Football comes easy to me. When it comes to coaching, obviously, I've only experience I got in coaching is coaching little league, and so Uh, so obviously, this going to the college level is a different type of beast because you add in recruiting, you add in the time management, you add in all the things that you have to commit to. So you never know. I could one day be an Oregon Duck running backs coach.
I would love that, but I'd also be very disappointed because I think I would have to let you go from the podcast at that point. I
Yeah,
don't know what I would do.
I would not be doing podcast. That's for sure.
Yeah, but like you said, you never say never.
Yeah.
Uh, let's open it up a little bit. What do you think the ultimate fallout from this move from Lachlan is going to be for the Ducks? The timing of it is certainly unfortunate. The hiring cycle usually happens earlier in January and February, but this took place almost took place on April 1st. So this is right in the middle of spring football. Transfer portal opens up in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks from now. There's also recruiting to think about. I mean, Lachlan was a very good recruiter. There's a lot of players on this team that came to Oregon that are not just running backs that Lachlan had a hand in. What do you kind of think the fallout from all of this is going to be when it's said and done?
Um, I don't really see too much of a fallout. I mean, the university, if you're an Oregon Duck right now, um, you're going to go through spring training and you're going to thank Lachlan for putting them in a situation to where they're now on a national stage. Um, you go to Oregon this year because, you have a good coaching staff and it's not for one person. Yeah, that guy might have recruited you there, but he uses, the resources that the Oregon has. He uses, the history that Oregon has. And, you know, I think, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, right? So, Coach Locklyn is part of the room.
Hmm.
So there's like-minded individuals on this coaching staff that these guys that he was recruiting are going to see similarities and feel the same vibe and whatnot. And that's why I say it's important, you know, as you're going through your search for another running back coach, you can't you can't drift from what Lachlan actually provided to that room. You just enhance it, and try your best to go out there and find somebody just as good or has the potential of being even better. And so I don't really see too much of a fallout. Um, it's spring ball, and guys are figuring it out anyways. Um, Now, if this was a situation where it was a in season situation,
Hmm.
move, then I see that as a foul out. And I think you have a head coach that is committed and capable of bringing great talent. And so, with the transfer portal coming up right now and everything, I think, you know, the presence of Oregon being in the Big Ten is the selling point.
All right, let's talk uniforms. I've talked a lot about this before. I am a uniform fan. I obviously grew up as a Duck fan, and being a middle schooler and high schooler during like the uniform craze back like right when you were playing and after you were playing at Oregon, it was exciting to say the least. So when
Hmm.
Oregon announced last week that they were unveiling these new Generation O uniforms that are coming in 2024, I got pretty excited. What were your thoughts when you heard this?
Here we go again. um, everything that Oregon does not surprise me one bit. Uh, it seems like it comes easy to them just to come up with things out of thin air, but it has got to be the hardest thing possible to come up with all these different combinations of jerseys. And I mean, now that we've added green, yellow, lightning yellow, forest green, apple green, black, gray,
Eggshell
pink, eggshell, silver. Um,
throwbacks.
uh, I'll tell you one of the worst combinations before we get to all the
I really hope
glorious
we agree
ones.
on this.
It was the mustard yellow helmet combination that we wore in the Vegas Bowl.
That was back when you were playing, right? That was like their
Yeah.
first attempt at a yellow. Yeah, that was one of the most god awful things I've ever seen.
I was like, man, what is this? It look like mustard.
But you know what's hilarious is that this past year, Oregon State broke out their version of that helmet, and it looked even worse than the
Hideous.
mustard yellow because it was like
Yeah.
that shiny kind of like what? It's like a mud orange that was gross. Yeah. So
Yeah.
at least they did it worse than we did.
Yeah, of course. Of course they did. Um, but man, like it's exciting. And I mean, especially going into the Big Ten, you got to think to yourself, this is obviously a great recruiting tool that we're pulling out the bag. Um, you know, make a make a nice little splash as we go into the Big Ten.
Yeah, so the release date for these is unknown, but they'll come out obviously sometime this summer. In a video that was released by the university, a tease video, they mentioned that there's going to be away jerseys. There's some throwbacks. We talked to Marcus Harper, the left guard, yesterday, and he said that some of the elements are they've got that like DeAnthony Thomas era jerseys with them. So I'm very curious to see what they do with that. Um, Before we get into specifics and have a little fun, though, I just wanted to have a broader uniform discussion with you because it feels like this is a topic that's uniquely Oregon for what you were just saying. Other schools have, sort of copied the model of always having new uniforms and changing every week, but no one quite does it like the Ducks do. You were part of that first wave of change at Oregon. I mean, back in the early 2000s, and when you were playing, that's when they started doing the tire tread on the shoulders and the knee pads and stuff. And that's when, like you said, new helmets started to pop up. What was that like to be a part of that era?
It was cool, man. Like, especially as a young kid that, doesn't come from much. You get new jerseys every week, new combinations. It's basically you get new clothes. So, um, and just the intentionality behind it, right? And being able to be part of something that's groundbreaking, um, you know, like a trailblazer in its own, right? So, um, being a part of that during that time, the tire tread on the shoulder pads, like, it was different. People were talking about us. Especially when you start winning games, people are talking about you. I remember when we were, on our streak there before Dennis Dixon got hurt. It was cool because we were watching ourselves on ESPN on a national level, the highlights, and they're talking about our jerseys and oh man, those Oregon Ducks. I mean, Nike is just pouring all the money into those guys, and it's just the hype, and it
Mhm.
was just like one of those times, you look back and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia when they see those plated jerseys. And I think like when I was in high school, like looking at the jerseys that Joe Harrington, Ontario Smith, those jersey combinations and what they looked like, and the representation of the O, right, the new O, and just how classic it was and how it felt, and but at the same time modern and timeless. Um, and basically, it's modern and timeless at the same time because it's original.
Mhm.
We were I mean, Oregon's the original folks that started the jersey combinations and, just getting outside of the box. And in this case, getting outside of the egg, right?
Yeah.
Live out of the egg.
You mentioned those the Joey Harrington era jerseys. Those are the throwbacks that I want to see next. I want to see what like a
Yeah.
new version of those throwbacks look like.
Oh
But
yeah.
I remember it was when you were there. Who was it that took credit for the tire tread? Wasn't it Demetrius Williams that said, "Oh yeah, that was my idea"? I remember someone. It was either him or Jason Williams, someone like that, took credit and said those were my ideas.
I mean, Jason Williams could sound right. It sounds right
I
because
think it was
Jason
one of
Williams
those two.
he worked for Nike, worked for I think he worked for Adidas, Under Armour. So I mean, Jason Williams, you know, obviously one of the great receivers of Oregon, but also just a great talent when it comes to being creative
Mhm.
in his own way. And so it wouldn't surprise me if he was the reason why we had those plated shoulder pads or Demetrius Williams. Demetrius Williams was so smooth. Like everything about him, his style, his clothes, like he was just like one of the smoothest guys on the team.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah, I'd buy either of it. So fans love uniforms and we talk about how it resonates with players in recruiting. Do you think that we think that's as big of a deal or do you think we make too big of a deal of that how, the uniforms are such a big factor in recruiting or do you think we aren't making a big enough deal? Do you think it resonates more with kids than we even think?
I think it resonates with kids. I think we're watching we're watching a time where it's shifting.
Mhm.
Um, the players coming out of high school are smarter. They understand, their end goal. They understand what it is that they're trying to achieve, which is get to the next level. So this transfer portal stuff, the NIL stuff, those things take precedence at this point, right?
Mhm.
If you're a good football team and it looks like you guys are going to be trending in the right direction of being good, that comes first. I think back in the day, like when you didn't have so much information at your hands, and you kind of had to like, man, I hope I made the right decision of going to the right place, because information wasn't at your hands. And so I think now guys can look up and say, "Oh, I'm a running back. Well, how's the offensive line going to be next year?" You can go right on your phone and Google, how's the offensive line going to be next year?
Mhm.
So, like, uh, back in the day, you depended on, the coach to tell you the truth, right?
Mhm.
And I think now, jerseys and the access to cleats and all the things, majority of the teams have that access. But as far as being a part of an organization, being a part of a college that um, does it in a way that's authentic and is true to the brand, um, that's one thing that Oregon has that no one else has. And so if you are a kid that, takes pride in, like being part of something different from, you know, uh, like what's that one thing that sets Oregon apart from the others? Um, this is one of those things. And I think you should definitely pump that. It won't hurt.
Yeah, definitely won't. So it's not what it is now, the as it was when you were at Oregon with all the combinations. I mean, they got more combinations now than they did when you were there, obviously. But what was it like for you going from a school with all these uniform choices in college and then landing with the Panthers in the NFL? And you mean no disrespect to the to Carolina, but having, a home set, an away set, and maybe an alternate set. What was that like? Was that a letdown for you at all to be like, oh, okay, well, we're in the same thing every week?
No, because my personality isn't necessarily wrapped up in, um, you know, I guess the aesthetics. I don't
Hmm.
know. But like my personality, was never driven by, um, the glitz and glamour of Oregon. Um, I'm a, are we going to win this game type of guy?
Hmm.
And am I going to be able to get a lot of yards behind this line type of guy? So, um, I think, obviously it was one of those things where I said, man, this training room is not as big as Oregon's, or man, y'all don't have any more socks than the socks that you're giving us, or where's all the gear at? I'm obviously having those questions, because it definitely, um, I think when I got to the league, it was a Reebok league, right? So
Oh, wow.
uh, we didn't have that many options, and Reebok was very foreign to me.
Mhm.
I don't think I owned a Reebok pair of anything in my entire life until I got to Carolina Panthers. And so it was definitely a change that I had to adjust to, but it wasn't a big adjustment. It wasn't really anything that I was upset about.
Okay, let's have some fun. We're gonna build our perfect Oregon uniforms in a second, but I first want to hear what your all-time favorite Oregon uniform that's been worn is. I've asked you this before. I think the first time you came on before you were a host, you were a guest, and you said that the throwbacks were the uniforms that you most wish you got to wear. I think that's kind of everyone's favorite. It's my favorite uniform as well. I think that's everyone's favorite uniform. So we're taking
Hmm.
those off the board. Take the
Yeah.
throwbacks out. What do you think is your favorite uniform that the Ducks have worn before?
Stormtrooper.
Okay. The Storm LA years?
No, the stormtrooper from my year.
Oh, yeah. Those are great.
Yeah. And there's just something about, like, it was I don't know, it was what's the word? Simple. What's another word for simple?
Basic.
Another
Toned
word for
down.
basic. It was just something that, like,
It was elegant.
elegant. Yes, that's a good word. It was straight to the point. It was
Yeah.
all white
Uh-huh.
and it had your treads. And so, um and it just reminds me of obviously playing the University of Washington.
Mhm.
And so we destroyed them in that stormtrooper outfit, and I'll forever remember that. But I'll give you a second though.
Can before we go
Uh,
to the off the stormtrooper real quick,
yeah.
it's like those were flashy without being flashy, you know? They were
Yes.
so
Yes.
simple, but
Yeah.
it was like, "Oh, these are clean white, and you know you're gonna look good in it," but it's not like you're
Yeah.
trying that hard, so I agree
It
with
was
you,
like
those are
wearing a
great.
tuxedo.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. I'm wearing a tuxedo today, and I'm gonna whoop your tail.
And you did.
And so those are my very much they're the like second favorites to the throwbacks that I never got a chance to wear.
Uh-huh.
But then the green apple, the
Thank you,
green
yes.
apple is my third.
Yeah.
The green
I was
that
gonna say my favorite is the white helmet, green apple top, white pants that they wore against Arizona in the Pac-12 championship when Marcus Mariota was there. Those I think
right.
were my hands down favorite. Other than the throwbacks, I think those are my favorite uniforms they've
And
worn.
didn't they have like orange socks or something like that too?
Not that year. Oh, we can have a conversation about the time when they tried to look like the mascot.
The
I think
Oregon
those are
Duck.
the worst uniforms they've ever worn.
Hey man, you got to try it.
But so that's a really polarizing topic because some people think that those uniforms with the white helmet, they had an orange face mask, and then the green top, white pants, orange socks. Some people love that because they're like, "Oh yeah, they're cool, they're innovative, they look like the mascot." I hated them. What did you think of
Mhm.
them?
I think it was innovative. It's something to talk about at the end of the
Yeah,
day, right? And that's why you're doing all of this is because you want people to talk about, the O. You want people to talk about the University of Oregon in a way that no one else is talking about their school, and we're at the end of the day, I feel like it's our responsibility to come out with these jerseys and shock the world. People right now that have no dealings with Oregon are going to be tuned in to figuring out what the Oregon jerseys are going to look like next year because that's part of the DNA. It's part of the history. It's part of the story.
I'm trying to see real quick. I'm pretty sure we lost the game that we wore those uniforms. Isn't that when we
Eh,
played Colorado? I'm trying to look it up real quick on the podcast, and it's not working as well. But yeah, listeners can fact check me on that. I'm pretty sure we lost that game, which makes it even worse.
hmm
All right, so let's go ahead and close this out with this. We're gonna build our perfect uniforms. So let's say in this scenario, Kenny Farr calls both of us up individually and says, "Hey, what should we wear for this home game? What should we wear for this an away game?" You get to choose the helmet, the jersey color, the pants, and the sock and shoe color. What are you choosing for a home game?
For a home game, got to go with some version of black.
Okay,
Um, just all black.
you're
I'm
just going
going all
blackout,
black.
head to toe, blackout.
Yeah, with like the what's the reflection green
Oh
like
yeah,
numbers.
uh huh.
Um, yeah, and then just black helmets with the matte black. Um,
Yeah.
and then just give me a tinted visor, man. I'm just trying to look like I'm just out here trying to kill some people.
Yeah, I don't think you have any
Like a
problem with that.
Halloween night too. Make it Halloween, a Halloween
I
special.
mean, it's like Fright Night against USC. That's what you're describing. Those were perfect.
Yeah.
For my home jersey, I'm going white helmet, and then I'm going with that jersey you got hanging right behind you. I'm going the black Air Jordan jersey.
Ah, yeah,
That I
yeah,
think is
yeah.
one of my favorites, and then I'm going white pants and white shoes with it. I think that would be
Okay.
a clean look. I've seen, like
That would be clean. That would be like a tuxedo.
it would be like a tuxedo.
Like a yacht, but like for a yacht party,
There you
like a
go.
yacht, like
It's a
a
different vibe.
yacht gala ball type thing.
It's funny when they have, like, some of these recruits out to on visits that do the photo shoots, they let the recruits do what we're doing right now and just build their own uniform and wear what they wanna wear, and
Hmm
I think it was Elijah Rushing, who's on the team now, wore that white helmet, the Air Jordan jersey, and I was like, "That is why have we never worn this before?" That's the best looking
Exactly.
thing I've ever seen. Alright, what
Yep.
about an away uniform? What you got?
I'm gonna have to go with uh what are the jerseys? I mean, the Ohio State championship game.
Oh, the
Oregon.
championship game. Okay, let me pull that up real quick.
The gray, they had like gray it was like gray, almost looked like it was white pants, and then the white with the gray wings
But they
and
also
the
had
white helmet with the gray.
their like tights and stuff were camo for that. Do you remember? Like
Yeah,
Marcus
they
Mariota
were
had
camo.
like camo
Yeah, he had
tights
camo. Yeah, he had camo.
with
I
white
wouldn't
helmets.
necessarily want to. I wouldn't wear the camo, but I would, the gray pants, the white jersey with the silver shoulder pad, wings, the white helmet
The
with the
silver wings.
silver wings. That was pretty nice. That was nice.
So, do you not succumb to the theory that we lost that game because we didn't have any school colors in our uniforms?
I don't mess with the theories of look, ball is ball. Like
Okay, that's
this
fair.
nonsense of it's because we wore the wrong jerseys. We've never worn these jerseys. First of all,
Spoken like
like
a
what do you
true football
expect?
player.
But like, hey man, if you feel good and you look good, you play good.
Uh,
Who says that?
I'm
All
just
right.
saying, we go out there and look like the Oakland Raiders and we end up playing like shit. It might have,
Hey man, there's been times that we looked like somebody else and we still whooped up on them,
That's
didn't we?
very true.
All right.
My away uniform, I'm going white helmet with the yellow wings and a yellow face mask, white
Okay.
jersey, yellow pants.
Oh yeah, those are
Going to white and
nice.
yellow. I like white jerseys, if you can't tell.
Yeah.
White helmets. That's my thing.
hmm Just clean. It's
It's clean.
elegant.
Yep.
I'm still looking for that word, but maybe
Well,
somebody that listens to this podcast can help me out. And if you figure out what that word is, you have a prize in
oh,
store for you.
okay. You heard it right here. All right. Do you have anything else before we wrap up?
Nah, man. Just wanted to, thanks Carlos for your time here at Oregon. We'll definitely say that we'll probably see you soon.
October 12th. We'll see you in
Obviously,
Eugene.
yeah. And I think we're wearing black jerseys that game.
We're in
That
all
we actually
black.
might be wearing
Yeah.
black.
All black.
No, but much continued success for you, man. And Ohio State got a real one. You're a no nonsense guy, God fearing man, consistent. I mean, I appreciate what you stand for in this world of football, especially the opportunity of getting these young men headed in the right direction, whatever it is in life. Whether it's making the pros, being businessmen, family men, whatever it is that they set out to do. If they're in your room, um, they're in good hands. So appreciate you, bruh.
Yep. I could not have said it better myself. You can check out more of my work at duckswire.usatoday.com. Like I mentioned before, I've got a list of potential running back coaches that Oregon could/should reach out to, and at least look at. So you can find that there. Follow me at Zachary C. Neel on Twitter. Follow Jay Stu on Twitter at Jonathan Stewart1, and follow him on Instagram there as well. Make sure to check out the Believe in Panthers podcast. For myself, Zach Neel, for my co host, Jonathan Stewart. We'll talk to you guys next week. Until then, take it easy.